next batch. Starting with the right again. I have an unlabeled case. This is a vintage 1981 Dean Z Standard. I bought this guitar in 2015 or 2016, I can't remember now, for a bargain, and I will get into why here in a minute, but I just want to say these are some of the best electric guitars that were made in the 80s, and they remain very, very good instruments compared to any electric guitar even today. This 81 Dean, and I've done a video on Dean before, and I'll keep it short, but the amount of quality that was going into this guitar back then was really unrivaled by many of the other companies of that time, to include Gibson. This guitar is the 81 Dean Z Standard, like I said. It has a flamed maple top. It has a bound body, DiMarzio super distortion pickups on both the treble and the rhythm. It's a string-through body design, which gives it more resonance with a brass string plate. And I think the bridge is factory, but it is not the usual tunematic. This is I believe, a Goto bridge. And it is, like I said, stock to the guitar. The fretboard is ebony with abalone inlays. And it has, this year, 81, had Grover tuners, which this has. And a smaller headstock. This is what's called the Series 3 headstock, which is slightly smaller than the 2. It's still prone to breaking, though, because of the case. And this is the original case. I've been meaning to get a replacement case for this Dean, which I talk about in my other video, and I will eventually. But the back is mahogany. I don't know how well. Let me put this like that. Mahogany back, mahogany neck. And yeah, set neck design. Great guitar. So the reason I got this for a bargain back in 2016 is because it had a headstock break, unfortunately. But fortunately for me, I got this thing for, I think, $800. I mean, it was ridiculous how cheap it was. And the break is, if you can see it, runs vertical right through the serial number. A very, very clean repair job. And so I love this guitar. I don't think I'll ever sell it. Unfortunately, I don't get to play it very often. I just, with so many guitars to look after, just have not had the chance to play it. Except recently. I did play it on a Soundgarden video that I put out, I think, a month and a half ago. And it's still a very good instrument. And so I plan to use it for 2025. All right, up next we have another Explorer shape. This is a 1994 Gibson Explorer, just a 76 reissue. What is special about this thing? It is built in 1994, which was a centennial year for Gibson. I purchased this guitar in 2023. I think I got it from somebody in Texas and met them in person, and got it from them because I didn't want it to get damaged in shipment. This thing is completely stock, 100%. It has obviously it's a black finish, but it's got a mahogany body, mahogany neck, Indian rosewood fretboard. The pickups, like I said, are stock, which I believe it's a 498T Alnico, and the rhythm is a 490R, I think. You guys can correct me on that if I'm wrong. Very good sounding pickups. really mid-rangey, punchy. Sometimes, depending on the type of song, like if I'm playing an STP song, that won't work because these are just more for chugging over, clarity and definition. But it has its uses, it sounds really good on certain songs I've done before. I have only used this once, I think, on the channel last year. So this is kind of a bonus guitar. I have not used it for 2024. I will use it for 2025, however. And so, in saying that, 94, now known as the sort of Goodwood era of Gibson. And, looking back, it really was. The balance on this thing is just amazing, and it's really lightweight, surprisingly. This example is only 7.5 pounds, and it's just a joy to play. I mean, it's perfectly balanced. It's lightweight, resonant. It may even been Honduran mahogany because it's just so lightweight. But no, and it's got a really slim neck too. I mean, the neck feels great. It's got Gato tuners, which I think Gibson stopped using by the end of the 90s. So that's pretty cool. The serial number is a little bit different from the normal because it was built in 94, so it starts with a 94. And yeah, I have... The only thing different, not original to this guitar, is I believe I replaced the strap buttons. That's it. All right, up next we got another guitar. This one's a bass. This is a very cool bass. It's a 1963 Fender Jazz bass. Very, very cool sunburst color. Just the right amount of wear on it. Not too much wear in my opinion, but it's got a little bit of wear on the sides. I think I got this guitar at the end of 2022 from the second owner who had it for decades. He played in the New York City area, and he was a really cool guy. When that second owner shipped the bass, he shipped it in the original case, which I still have, and it was in very good condition. It was one of the brown Telex cases, but I sort of mentioned this with the Dean, but I try to replace those cases as soon as I can, because when you have a case that old, a lot of times it's a relic, and it just doesn't serve as a case as well as it maybe did when it was brand new. And so I use, for the Fenders especially, I use G&G cases. These things are amazing. They're just like the original Fender cases in the design, the exterior design, but the interior is just much better padding. It's just higher quality in my opinion. And you can get them for about $120 to $200, so pretty good deal. And yeah, that's what the case had. So that's what the case was, but I got a new case. And so as far as the specs go, this thing is all original. Those of you who are into vintage Fenders know what you're looking at here, but we'll go over it anyways for anybody who's not familiar. Stock pickups, other than, you know what, the only thing not original to this bass is I had the pickup, the rhythm pickup rewound because when I got the bass, it was unfortunately dead. But other than that, she's all stock. The string mutes are in the bass case, and I don't really use them because I don't really think they are practical in this day and age. What else? Strap buttons are original. This is either an alder body. Actually, I think this is a ash body because this bass weighs about 9 pounds, which is a little heavy for this era. But it's still a very light bass to play. And stock pots, stock everything else, string mute, pickguard, celluloid, Brazilian rosewood fretboard with clay dots, veneer board at that. Still got the logo intact. Tuners. Maple neck. just the right amount of wear on it. This is a pre-L series plate. I don't know if you can see that, but pre-L series plate right there. Starts with an 8. And a little bit of wear on the back. Nitro finish. So yeah, 63. Great year for Fender. Leo still owned the company. He was just getting ready to sell to CBS, but hadn't done it yet. So, great bass. All right, so the next guitar is yet another bass. This one is a 1973 or 72, can't remember, Fender Jazz bass. I have not featured this on the channel this year, but it is in my house, so I wanted to show it today as a bonus. I bought this bass in 2020, just before COVID popped off. And I got it for a really good deal from a musician who was the daughter, actually, of the original owner in Chicago. She sold it to me on the internet. And it was a really good deal because the pickups were replaced, and I think even the pots were replaced. But everything else on the bass is original. It also includes the original ashtray covers, which I've wrapped in paper because I don't want it bouncing around in the case, getting screwed up. But I don't really use those covers, to be honest. The covers are good for certain things, but I don't really need to use them, so I just keep it off, and I keep the screws just kind of plugged into the bass. I also have those for the 63 Jazz bass, but same thing, I don't really use it. So, what to say about this one? Well, first of all, the specs. This is definitely an older body. Tortoiseshell pickguard, ABS plastic. It's got a maple fretboard, really cool black block inlays. Maple neck. The back is maple as well with a walnut stripe on it. This is well into the CBS era. And I will want to talk about that a little bit on this video, although I will do a separate video on that specifically. So Fender gets kind of a bad rap for the 70s guitars. While I think a lot of them post-75 were clunkers, I think pre-75, a lot of them were great, were actually really good, especially the older, because in the early 70s, Fender started to bring in the ash even more for the basses even. And those things are boat anchors almost always. It was rarely lightweight ash from that era. But the alder, which kind of phased out by 75, which by the way may have had something to do with Leo Fender departing Fender in 75. Those examples are usually great. I mean, this guitar only weighs 8.5 pounds, which is great for a jazz bass. And it's very resonant, very balanced, very comfortable, low action. I would put this up, with any pre-CBS Fender. And yeah, the pickups sound really good. Like I said, these are aftermarket. These are Seymour Duncan Antiquity 2s. I may be putting some Geddy Lee pickups in soon, but I haven't really done it yet. So yeah, that's it. I think the last time I used this guitar was in 2020 for a lesson, but I will be doing more with it in 2025. Last but certainly not least, we have 3 more guitars, all the way to the right again. I have a 2022 Paul Reed Smith Silver Sky. This guitar is amazing. I bought this in, I think, 2023, so a pretty new edition. Where to start? So, all stock at the moment, has an alder body and a maple neck, and I think it's an Indian rosewood fretboard. Let's see. And those may may or may not be clay bird inlays. I don't know what the material is. But the guitar is modeled after, it's a John Mayer signature, essentially. And it's modeled after, I've read, a 63 Fender Stratocaster. Now I have a Fender 63 Fender Stratocaster, not here with me, but I have one. And I have compared these side to side. And although the neck is just slightly bigger on this guitar, it is... it's really good. It holds up very well to a real 63, although the 63, of course, in my opinion, could be placebo, is just slightly better. But considering this guitar is new and a fraction of the price of a real 63, this thing is solid. I would even say this guitar is the best modern Fender Stratocaster one could buy from a big manufacturer today. So that's something, then that's a big statement, and I've had a lot of Fender Strats. I've had master builds, I've had custom shops, I've had vintage, I still have vintage ones from the 60s and 70s, and this thing holds up very, very well compared to those. So this one is finished in pewter. I think it's pewter. I don't know the official color for it, but it's not quite silver. It's more of a pewter color. It's just like a dark silver. I think it's beautiful. And then the back, if I can turn it over without screwing things up here. The back has a painted, I don't know if that's a brass block for the tremolo or what the material is. And that's the other thing that reminds me of when I compared the 63 Strat to this one. The 63 is a little bit more resonant, and I think a lot of it has to do with the steel tremolo block. Back in those days, in the 60s, the steel was of a different composition than I think what's used today, even for the steel. And I think that has something to do with it. So with that said, I may do some mods to this thing later, tremolo block and maybe the tuners. And you can see they're plastic tuners. The tuner tips are anyway, and they're like a Kluson style. But beautiful neck, nice and thick, pretty accurate to an original 63, and very comfortable to play. I have used this thing quite a bit this year. Can't recall the exact videos. I think I used it on a Black Flag video and an STP, and it sounds really, really good through Mesa Boogie. Okay, the next guitar is Les Paul shaped. Gee, I wonder what it is. All right, a 1982 Gibson Les Paul Custom in Silverburst. Many years ago, I had a 1980 Silverburst Custom. I think it was maybe 20 years ago, a little over 20, that I got it. I eventually sold it. Although I liked it a lot, I sold it. And just in recent times, I wanted to come back to a Silverburst and play another one and have another one. So I bought one, this one here, about roughly 2 years ago. And this thing is all stock. It's in really good condition. It's got a few little nicks on it, but for its age, it's in great shape. So it has, as far as specs, it's a maple top. It's got a ebony fretboard with square block mother of pearl inlays. And, it's got the classic diamond inlay on the headstock. And in 82, and around this time, maybe even in 83, the tuners had these little flip out, or whatever you call them, winder kind of things that you could do to help tune the guitar. They're kind of gimmicky, but I think it's kind of a cool little thing on this year only. It also has a different bridge on it. I don't know what that's called. If anybody on my channel would like to comment on that, feel free to correct me because I don't remember what that is. But that's not your normal tune-o-matic. So speed knobs, just your usual speed knobs. I think the pots are CTS, and these things are super fast. I really like the taper on it. It's just a very smooth feel. Tim Shaw pickups, all original from '82. Personally, I prefer the T-top pickups, but the Tim Shaw is a bit more aggressive than the T-top, and it's really good for certain applications, usually heavy rock and even metal. It's still a really good pickup. And the back is, let me turn this around. So the back is also shot in Silverburst. It's mahogany back and a maple neck, which was '82 was the last full year that maple necks were done on Les Paul Customs, as far as I know. And I don't know if you can see it, but for '82, Gibson ceased with the volute on the back of the neck, so there isn't a volute at all. And that's really it for this one. I mean, it's a great guitar. Like I said, it's got a nice C neck shape to it. It's not too beefy, not too thin. It does weigh a lot. I would say it weighs about 10.5 pounds, which is why I don't use it that often. You know, anybody buying a Norland Les Paul should expect a Les Paul to be, that guitar to be pretty heavy in the 10-pound range, and that's what this is. So no surprises there, but I don't use it as much as I would like to. I think I've only used it once this year on my Norland era video. But yeah, I plan to use this a lot more in the future. This says EVH on the case, but it is in fact an Ernie Ball Music Man. This is called the Access X, which is essentially the Eddie Van Halen model from the early 90s. The story behind this is Eddie Van Halen was in business with Ernie Ball during the early 90s and had a signature run. I don't think it had a name. I think it was called the Eddie Van Halen Ernie Ball Music Man. And the deal ended in 1995. Well, Ernie Ball still had a large stock of these guitars laying around. And so due to maybe copyright or implications with the deal ending with Eddie, shipped off the remaining surplus to Japan for completion and for sale. So a lot of these bodies and necks post 1995 for a few years went to Japan and were assembled and completed in Japan. And this is one of them. So this guitar is from 1998, I believe. I bought this used, obviously, from a musician in Japan. He was a Japanese musician, and I bought it, I don't know, maybe 30 years ago, roughly. And I got a really good deal on it. The Eddie Van Halen models with the signature on the headstock, which this does not have, because this is right after that. Those go for $5 to $10 grand, on the market, and this guitar, which is the same, goes for a fraction. And so, yeah, I was all about getting one of these. So as far as specs, beautiful, beautiful curly maple top. It does have a maple fretboard as well, though this is a bird's eye maple neck. Both the top and the back are maple. And the body, I believe, is either alder or basswood. Don't quote me on that. It's a very lightweight guitar. This example is about 7.5 pounds, which is great. The pickups are DiMarzio Customs. I believe they're custom. You guys can correct me on that if I'm wrong. And just a single pot, obviously. And this is a either a Floyd Rose patented bridge, or it may be Goto. And also a veneer, maple veneer on the headstock, and pearloid tuner buttons, and steel frets as well, actually, which is a great function on, which means you don't ever have to replace the frets. So that's pretty cool. Another cool thing about this guitar, and I don't know why Fender has not gravitated towards this, but for truss rod adjustments, there is a wheel at the base of the neck that has exposed, I think they're Allen wrench portholes, and you can just adjust by putting the Allen wrench in right here and turning it, and you don't even have to take the neck off. So to me, that's a genius design and an improvement. And so, yeah, and this guitar was only used, I think, once this year for a lead in Black Flag. Great sounding guitar, plan to use it a lot more. All right, that's it, guys. If you like videos like this, if you want to see something for 2025 as far as my gear, please comment and please send me a message. If there are any guitars you would like to see from my collection in this video more next year, please let me know, or also just please let me know what you think about the guitars. Thank you for watching.